Lati, Lelelit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill is very important because it strengthens and establishes the legal framework for the management of our environment and exploitation of our mineral resources, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, before I speak to this bill, as we sit here today, Mr. Speaker, I take note that the presidents of our continent, and in particular our country, Kenya, in New York, in Washington, D.C., because of the American government requested to have a conference with the heads of state. But, Mr. Speaker, this speaks volumes, noting the ignorance that America has always placed on the African continent. There is something in the offing here, and I think as Africans we have to take care of that. It is because Africa's growth economically is well above all other continents, and for the first time in history, it looks like Africa is on the move in terms of economics. But, Mr. Speaker, particularly we have to know that Africa's resources, and I was watching Bloomberg yesterday and other news channels across the world, and I was very impressed because it seems, although the delegation is African delegation, but there was a lot of emphasis in the news media across the world on the Kenya's delegation, and in particular the President of this Republic. The reason for that, Mr. Speaker, is that Kenya is emerging, apart from being the financial hub that it is on the East African region, it's now becoming a resource-rich country that's depended by the region. And I think that is very important to note in light of this bill that talks of the management of our natural resources, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but I want to support this bill, Mr. Speaker, and I've seen people here talk of having the CSS being given a lot of power. And I tend to disagree, Mr. Speaker, because I think there are a lot of checks and balances within our constitution and other legal frameworks to make sure that we are able to watch what the cabinet secretaries do. We know that the government holds in trust all natural resources for the people of Kenya. And with that trust, Mr. Speaker, there is nobody else that we can place that trust other than the CS. And he needs to have that power, Mr. Speaker. One of the things that I'm very proud of is the right of preemption, which, Mr. Speaker, it is something similar to the eminent domain doctrine, where the government can take care of the public good outside of individual good if something truly serves the public. And I think our CSs, holding these resources in trust of our people, require to have something closer to the eminent domain doctrine. Mr. Speaker, to declare an area, a mineral area, I think that those are the things we should leave for our CSS because it's necessary. When you work in Parliament, we don't have that opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to be doing day-to-day works of the ministries. And I've said there are enough checks and balances provided through the Constitution to this House and other legislative organs to take care of CSS, Mr. Speaker. The other thing I'm proud of this bill is the recognition of the minerals that are strategic, particularly the radioactive minerals, Mr. Speaker. With the advent of so many terrorist activities in our region and in the world as a whole, I think it is very good of this bill to recognize the restriction of radioactive material that some minerals like uranium, which might come out of our country, might provide. Mr. Speaker, but I think what I wanted to speak more, Mr. Speaker, is the silence of this bill on very important issues. Mr. Speaker, the first thing that this bill is silent about that is very important is the revenue sharing formula between the county government, between the communities, and the national government, Mr. Speaker. I think without a clear framework on how communities benefit that are closer to the mineral areas, I think we risk having community investor conflict when exploiting these minerals. And that's the last thing we want to do when we want to improve our economy and when our economy is slowly moving into a resource economy. We want to make sure that communities that live around mineral areas do benefit so that they can have a good time with the people who invest in those minerals. We want to make sure that the county governments, which are the custodians of these minerals at the local level, they hold the minerals in trust for the people of Kenya, also benefit in certain ways. and we want to make sure that the revenue that's generated from these minerals also the benefit our country as a whole, our national government. So, Mr. Speaker, I think one of the amendments that is necessary in this bill and I would support is to bring a revenue sharing formula that is clear, that serves all those three categories: the communities, the county government, and the national government. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that is silent in this bill, Mr. Speaker, is that it's a sovereign wealth fund. Mr. Speaker, all the countries that have had minerals, and I'm saying, and I'm very optimistic that our country is moving to be a mineral-rich country, particularly with the establishment of discoveries of oil in Turkana, and I'm very sure the next one will be Samburu. Mr. Speaker, I know for sure that the oil that is in Turkana actually comes from Samburu because it flows way down. And I think I'll be proved right very soon. But even today, as we speak, chromite is highly, there's a lot of chromite in Samburu in a place called Kankura, and we need to find a way as a country. If you look at all the countries that have minerals or have budget surpluses and trade, there's a special fund called the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And if you look at our constitution, it establishes all other funds. If you look at an equalization fund, the county revenue fund, the consolidated fund, but it lacks the establishment of a sovereign wealth fund. And I wanted to bring that bill to the House, but I'm told someone else is bringing it. And I think that is something very important. Because although we don't have trade surpluses or budget surpluses, with these natural resource discoveries in our country, we need a sovereign wealth fund because it will help diversify the revenue streams for our country, particularly when these minerals are exhausted. Mr. Speaker, I happen to be a portfolio manager managing one of the biggest sovereign funds in the world, SAMA, which is the Saudi Arabian Monetary Agency, ADIA, and Government Investment Corporation of Singapore. And when the markets were doing truly bad in 2009, that is how countries like Singapore and Saudi Arabia tend to survive through the bad economic times, the troughs within the economic circles. And I think as a country, that is one of the things we need to do so we don't exploit our minerals. And when the economies of countries that buy our minerals, when prices plummet like what they did at the copper prices in Zambia, people get poorer because I guarantee you that in the discoveries of oil and with prudent use of that oil, the lifestyles of our people might improve. And it's usually very hard to take people to lower lifestyles after they have gotten used to higher lifestyles. And I think Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi are good cases in point on the sovereign wealth fund issue. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that this bill is silent on is the recognition of small-scale miners. Apart from the big investors that we get from abroad that we give a lot of attention, or the big businessmen from Nairobi, there are small-scale miners, across our villages. People who just collect minerals. And if you go to Arusha today, you'll get so many Maasais digging a lot of Tanzanite diamond. And I think there is need to make sure that we recognize those people within our legal frameworks. Finally, Mr. Speaker, is that minerals are exhaustible. After some time, the minerals will end. And the case of Bamburi in Mombasa is a good case in point. We always need to reclaim our environment back. And I think we need to put something in this law that makes sure that the environmental degradation is brought so that the communities that live next to those areas will continue enjoying the good environment that the Almighty God has given them in their lives. And Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I thank you and I support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.